Hey everyone, and welcome to another Sasquatch Theory podcast. On this episode, we have Jay from Connecticut. Jay had some strange experiences that he could not explain, and he believes they were Sasquatch creatures. He has many theories and ideas regarding the origins of Sasquatch, and some of them are pretty far out there, but I am remaining open-minded to people's ideas, theories, and anything that could lead us to the next level of Bigfoot research. To me, it's very important to gather information regarding the Sasquatch creatures as far as the time, the date, the year, the weather, the location, and what the person witnessed with their own eyes. Those types of reports are the most important pieces of information, and as you guys know, I am a boots-on-the-ground person. I look for physical evidence as far as tracks, structures, hairs, and I'm out there trying to get video footage of these creatures, whether it's with a camcorder or a thermal drone, whatever it may be. But every now and then people call in and they have these out there theories regarding the Sasquatch, and I appreciate them. But I am looking for Bigfoot witnesses with crucial information as far as things being very detailed and locations. To me, that's very important. And yeah, I do appreciate Jay, and I was open-minded towards his ideas because I'm really into ancient civilizations and ancient history. And I feel like these things are ancient. When you encounter this sort of activity that's really rare, it feels ancient and unknown. If you guys can, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share with me, feel free to reach out to me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Alright guys, let's dive into our next set of Bigfoot experiences from the state of Connecticut here on Sasquatch Theory. All right, Jay, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Doing well.
Good. I'm glad to have you on the show. Jay, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot experiences from the very beginning.
All right. I'm 44. I am a military vet, intelligence analyst, Air National Guard. I live in the southeastern corner near the coast of Connecticut, and originally from Rhode Island. I got into this topic around like 2008. I mean, I've always been fascinated with it. I knew about the Patterson-Gilman film. I've known about other different video footage that was believed to be real, and AI didn't exist yet really, so it was either a really good costume or it was real. And to have the shoulder width and see the muscle definition in some of the videos that I've had, and I still have, it's impossible to replicate. So I got into it in like 2015, 2016, started expanding into learning more about dogmen, werewolves, things like that. Never had any experience, never even smelt them, didn't see them, didn't hear them. And I do not live near a national park or national forest. The closest state park I live near is Rocky Neck. And which is interesting, there is one account of Rocky Neck where a woman was walking in the middle of that park at like dusk, and she got growled at so bad, so loudly, and it like reverberated her chest cavity. And I still don't know what that could have been. That could have been a Sasquatch can do that, or a dogman could do that. So I'm not exactly sure on that. That's pretty much my background on that. So as I started getting more into this, I started, doing a little bit more research and looking at different YouTube channels. And there was one channel, and this was in November of 2020. And as I was watching this video, I went into the comment section, and there was some decent information. I like to check out the comment section because sometimes, in my opinion, sometimes you can get better information or more accurate information in the comment section than you can the actual video. So I was just checking that out, and I saw some information that I hadn't seen before. And I was like, all right, so this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. I'll put some of my information in there and see what he thinks of that. So I did. And then, to my surprise, he goes and drops like an information that I've never even heard before, or even more so. And that is, they don't like to be called the Sasquatch. They are actually called the Almaz people, or preferred to be called the Almaz people or the people, because they originated in an area of Ukraine, a modern-day Ukraine, which was ancient Khazaria. I was blown away by that because I had never heard anyone even mention any of that, but it made sense because of the bone structure and the more robust human features that some of the Nordics and the human civilizations from up north in Alaska, in Sweden, Nordics, and Russia possess. So I was pretty blown away by that. So I tried to find out, a little bit of an ego thing. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, but I felt I did too, which I was very wrong about. So I dropped some of my real information. I'm like, well, they grow to like 8 to 10 feet for the male and approximately 800 to 1,300, 1,500 pounds. And he said, yes, they do, but... And then he responded to this one, and he said, well, but they don't have a pituitary gland, so they can grow to as tall as 30 feet. As one of the ones that I have in my camp right now, he's 28 feet tall. Now I'm really intrigued by this individual, and I just started asking him questions back and forth. And long story short, I basically said, I'd love to be able to learn more from you, but not like clogging up a YouTube comment section. So, he ended up getting my email. I don't know how, but he emailed me, and then we started conversing back and forth, and I started asking him all different questions, and he started providing me more answers to questions that I've had for a long time, and he provided insight to previous encounters, what people really saw, experienced, and what caused abductions, particularly in reference to David Paulides' missing 411 disappearances. Now, I had always had it in the back of my mind that Sasquatch, a rogue Sasquatch, or Dogman, or a werewolf, which are two completely different things, were responsible for the majority of these disappearances in the national parks and national forests. And he provided me information that was so accurate and made so much sense on how people could disappear so quickly in such a short distance from friends and family that it really resonated with me. And that is that they have nothing to do with this except for maybe 1%. He said it's not the ones you can see which are a problem. It's the entities that were always with them, providing security for them, who were the problem and who were responsible for the missing 411 disappearances. And pretty much every single disappearance in a national park, in a national forest, in a wildlife refuge, in a state park or state forest, or sometimes even in major cities. I didn't know that they were in there too, but they're in there as well. They are the invisible enemy, and that's what he calls it. He calls it the invisible enemy or the puppet masters. Throughout history, they were never known as what their actual name is. There's been all different names. People call them Archons. People call them the Sumerian gods. The secret of all secrets of military under highest classification was the returning of the Sumerian gods. Who are the Sumerian gods? Well, a lot of people think it's the Anunnaki. That isn't the truth. The Star People. Who are the Star People? All these names, all these labels, the terminology of the puppet masters and who's been in control of the Sasquatch and the small grays, which their real name is called the Bajekavizians. They were both of these humanoid civilizations were genetically modified for specific purposes for the actual puppet masters, the ones that have been in control of everything, the ones that have their massive subterranean bases, facilities, and strongholds, and immense tunnel systems underneath every single national park and national forest on the planet, not just the United States. So the United States is saturated with these all across the southwestern states and the northwestern states. And the reason why is because of volcanic activity and seismic activity. They use it to create their energy, 0.3 energy. This is why there is an Egyptian pyramid that is buried into the bottom of the Grand Canyon. They're not tombs. The giant pyramids of Giza, they're not tombs either. They're power plants, 0.3 energy power plants. This is why no one's allowed to climb on there, and why it's so restricted. And still to this day, people aren't even allowed within like 1,000 feet of the Egyptian pyramid that's buried into the wall of the Grand Canyon. Because if the powers that were in control until 2018 realized, or didn't realize, knew that we had this technology, then fossil fuels would become obsolete. And therefore, all of the military industrial complex and those people that own that stock and those companies who are heavily invested in fossil fuels would lose billions of dollars, and they would never allow that to happen. So not to get off topic on that, but this is very important because the Sasquatch, less a couple of rogue Sasquatches, you can call them that, or Sasquatch is still the plural, ripping someone's head off because they got shot at, or it was a father or mother defending their child, having bullets fired at them. They aren't violent. They're the complete opposite of violent. 90% of the time, if you hear them roaring at you so loudly that it shakes and reverberates your bones and your rib cage, or they're throwing 70 to 100-pound boulders within 2 feet of you, or you hear a wood knock, which isn't a wood knock, it's a massive tree trunk being smashed by a giant tree limb so loud it sounds like a damn gunshot. These are not to scare you for the hell of it. It's for 3 purposes. Number 1, their young is in the area and they don't want you there, especially if you have a firearm. 2, there is danger in there worse than them. They don't want to attack you. But if there's a dogman or a werewolf, and if this is in regarding before 2022, human hybrids based off the Nazi super soldiers and the AKA crawlers, that's number 2. And number 3, there is a Zeta Sumerian god, aka Archon, aka Puppet Master, aka Madre base very near where this person's heading or is, and if they are discovered, they will never see the light of day alive for the rest of their lives. They were the ultimate predator, apex predator, and what they made, their human hybrids based off the Nazi super soldiers, was the scariest and most deadly predator biological weapon ever seen, ever witnessed, ever created in this universe. They had the ability of traveling over faster than the speed of light because they travel and lived in a higher frequency or a lower frequency. The human eye can only detect from 430 terahertz to 730 terahertz. It's THZ. I don't know if that's the correct level of measurement, but it's THZ. Anything below that becomes invisible. Anything above that becomes invisible. So that means any time that a Sasquatch wants to be seen because he's luring people into kill boxes, because if he doesn't, the Zetas or the Zeta human hybrids would be ordered to kill him and his family within seconds of disobeying an order. He goes or she goes and makes herself or himself visible, walks around, makes sure that this hiker sees or this camper sees them to get them to chase them. And they're dying inside because they know if this happens and it's effective, which it normally was, that person would never be seen again. And if they were seen again, their memory was going to be wiped. Horrible things have happened to them that they'll never remember. Or the next time that person's seen is their body is found. And it could be between a couple of days later if it's done quick. Or in some cases, bodies have showed up of people that were missing for 40 years that show up in Lake Mead one day in actually decent condition, where in reality, if a body's been missing for 40 years, and has been sitting in water, it's going to be absolutely unidentifiable, for one, and it would look more like stew, just pieces here and there. I mean, it would be completely unidentifiable. So this is the reality of where these bodies come from. They were either taken to a Zeta or a Sumerian god Dum, which all of these locations and their tunnel systems were found at exactly 10 kilometers deep. Now, if you want to look into this and check the validity of this information, I'd like you and any one of your listeners to check the National Geographic Survey for any type of seismic activity ranging from 2.5 magnitude to 6.5 magnitude at exactly 10 kilometers deep. There's a lot of them. And the reason why is because ever since 2016, when the positive, the benevolent extraterrestrials that are assisting the patriots save humanity and get our planet back to us, away from the Madre, away from the Sumerian gods and those they controlled, their human puppets. The Pleiadians are using high-frequency energy weapons to destroy these things. Once they're found and tracked down, they're destroyed using a high-frequency energy weapon that registers as a seismic footprint of an earthquake where there's no fault and where there's no tectonic plate. And this is still going on right now. If you were to go to that website, you will still see 10 km earthquake, 3.5 Richter on the Richter scale. But it's not where a earthquake is known to happen. And there's no tectonic plate, and there's no fault. So that clear indicator that there was some type of archonic base or tunnel system, which ironically, they started their ground zero at ancient Egypt, and that's where they landed, and that's where they started creating their empire. Now, the irony, or the I guess it's not irony, but every single base has a tunnel system of theirs. Not the Black Ops human ones. We're talking just theirs. And their tunnels all lead to the plateau of Giza because that was ground zero, and that's where Satan's throne was. That's where his real throne was. Until he moved from there to Mount Hayes, under Mount Hayes, 33,000 feet under Mount Hayes, that massive mountain in Alaska. And that's where Satan's throne was until 2020, when that entity was permanently discarded or taken out of its existence. The Sasquatch were chosen by the Zetas, or the Archons, whatever you want to call them, as their physical laborers, as their slaves. They built every single pyramid on this planet with their strength, but also with frequency and levitation technology of the Archons. This is why each and every one of these blocks were made with absolute precision, surgical precision, and 500-ton pieces of stone were able to be lifted over 200 freaking feet in the air and placed so surgically that a piece of paper cannot get in between any of these blocks. But if you want to see some evidence that these giant pyramids are a power source, take a look at when the power gliders go over, and they got in trouble for it. I don't know how much trouble, but the person said they felt an energy source and the person's hair started raising up. And this happens to other people that end up standing on the hundreds of buried pyramids that are buried under mountain ranges or under dunes. Someone could be standing on a dune or standing on a certain mountaintop. It doesn't look like there's a pyramid underneath. But suddenly they walk onto a certain spot and their hair starts raising up like crazy and it looks like they're about to get struck by lightning. That's 0.3 energy. And all of this will be disclosed in the near future. But getting back to the Sasquatch, they were robust humans and they were chosen after the Galactic War that happened 12,972 years ago. They were chosen as slaves. 6,500 years ago, they were genetically modified for physical labor. How did this happen? And what were the changes? The changes were that their arms were elongated and their legs were strengthened, made more muscular, but shortened. They also shortened the abdomen. This allowed them, and still allows them, to travel, walk, and run at extremely fast speeds and comfortably on all fours, but they can also get up and have and run on two legs. They can go bipedal or on all fours, but it was designed. They were designed. This genetic modification was specifically for them to live in subterranean conditions. They always been living below ground. They lived in caves sometimes, but the majority of the time they're living in these Zeta bases or Black Ops bases. They travel through tunnels underneath the ground, underneath major cities. They've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. Their purpose was extreme, intense physical labor. They built the Zeta bases. They dug those out with their incredible superhuman strength. They dug out all of the crazy, immense tunnel systems all the way to Giza. And no one had a clue. The only one that knew were the people that were supposed to know. And that was Teddy Roosevelt. Why do you think that he cordoned off, like, I don't know, 1 million acres of national parks and national forests and said, no one's going to be able to build in there. We don't want people going in there. We're going to call this a national park. That's going to be called the national forest. This is going to be called the wildlife refuge. This is going to be called the conservation area. Presidents know, and they knew what these were, because we've been losing over 6 million children a year. We've been losing over 15 to 20 million women, men, and children a year, never to be seen again. Many that don't even have birth certificates. That's a different story, because a birth certificate it's a farce. Just like the Sasquatch were created for a purpose, the small grays they resided in modern day Ethiopia. They also were chosen as slaves, but they were much smaller and they weren't chosen for the same purposes as the Sasquatch by the Archons. Their main goal, or their main purpose for the Archons, was genetic research, geoengineering, and virology. Their goal was for mass population control, creating viruses, creating diseases, anything that they could think of that could limit and control the population, the ridiculously fast-growing population of the human race. So they made viruses, they made diseases, they made religions, all for the purposes of conflict and for fatalities, something that could ensure that it could be deadly to a human or provided a source of conflict that would lead to war and division that would also eventually lead to fatalities. War, all the wars were designed as mass population control. And that's why the Bajekuzians, or the small grays, were given their gifts of intellect. Now, along with these gifts of intellect and superhuman strength for the Almas, or the Sasquatch, and the small grays, both of these were genetically modified with the Zeta DNA, which gave them the ability of telepathy. It gave them superhuman abilities other than strength. It gave them the ability to vibrate at a lower frequency than what the human eye can detect, but also travel through our matter like a hot knife through butter on times 1,000. They can go through solid steel. They can go through volcanic rock. They can go through magma. They can travel from one part of the United States, from the East Coast to West Coast, in under 1 minute flat. So when people are saying, oh, well, my son was right next to me when we were in Yosemite National Park, and then I looked and turned around, he was within 15 feet, and he was gone, that's how it happened. Either a Zeta god or one of their human hybrids came up from behind him, connected spiritually to that child at the sacral chakra, located at the 33rd vertebrae of that child, cloaked the child, making him unable to be seen by his parents, but they could still hear him and they could smell him if he had a smell. But what's more important and what's even more scary is people could feel the spiritual connection of the Zeta God, and it is the most intense, horrible, primal sense of fear and dread you've ever felt in your life. And I have felt that. Not in the daytime, but at night. They are the shadow people. They are the whispery creatures. They were the plague of evil on this planet. Their spiritual power and their abilities, when they were in a cloaked state, could not be matched by anything. Until 2016, when a call for help came out and went out into the universe, and the call was answered. And you'll learn about that. Higher frequency individuals, higher frequency civilizations, angelics, aka. Take a look outside right now. Look at what's happening in the world. What are we seeing? We're seeing aerial phenomenon, and we're seeing drones that have never been seen before. They've been allowed to uncloak because we're very, very close to full disclosure. Hey, more than 50% of what you're hearing and have been hearing in the mainstream media since 2020 would never, ever, never be allowed to be heard by the general public if the evil was still in control. And that is a testament that good is triumphing over evil. So that's my background on them. That's where they came from. That's what their main purpose was. There's a lot more to that. When it comes to me, I got into them because I actually didn't even know about them. I mean, I knew about them, but I didn't know that they were following me or they would follow me. So when it came to my personal experiences, I actually was up in Glen Ellis Campground, and I was just camping. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. Didn't hear a howl, didn't hear any hooting or whooping or anything like that. Which, let me stop there real quick, and I'll continue on that story. The reason why they hoot and they whoop and they have the elongated arms is because when they were modified, they were given DNA of gibbon monkey. This is why, if you listen to the Samurai Chatter or Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds, and it sounds like a giant chimp or some type of primate, this is where it comes from. They were given 8% gibbon monkey DNA added to them. This is where the elongation of the arms came from and the shortened legs. Also helped out with their strength because gibbon monkeys are very, very strong. But that was like, their strength was boosted so much higher because they were literally digging out massive 1,000-foot caves and bases with their bare hands and feet. So, yeah, they got a lot more than the power and the strength of a gibbon monkey, let me tell you. Yeah, so they also have Denisovanan DNA and Neanderthal DNA, in addition to Pleiadian DNA and human DNA. And that's where you get that balance. That's where the robust humans were already built. They were already made, seeded by the Pleiadians. And then after the Galactic War and they became slaves, 6,000 years later, they were given these genetic modifications specifically for physical labor. Excuse me. Now, getting back to my situation, my story. So that was 2017 Glen Ellis Campground. And the only reason why it had to be that is because I don't think I've ever stepped foot in another national park and national forest. So when I was conversing with an individual that really got me into looking into myself and the Sasquatch or Almaz people, Dogmen, red-haired giants, Zeta-human hybrids, that is all this. I was actually researching on YouTube, and during that, I went into a comment section and started dropping some information. And that's when I started learning more about the specifics of their DNA and their origins, where they came from, why they were built, who the real predators were. Excuse me. In 2017, I didn't know anything really about these. So from 2017 to the day that I was told, yes, they are here because of you, because they're attracted to you, that was June of 2022. So from 2017 to 2022, that's 5 years. They've been in my woods, and I don't have a lot of land. I don't have a lot of woods. I have maybe like 5 acres in back there, if that. It's not a lot of land. So they didn't make a sound. They didn't make any there was plenty of opportunities for them to initiate communications. I didn't hear from them. I didn't smell them. And let me stop there real quick. It's whenever someone says, "Oh, they smelled so bad," and then they saw the Sasquatch 10 feet away. I hate to break this to you. It's not the Sasquatch that smelled like ass or smelled like body odor of a human times 10 or smelled like garbage or blood. They were the magician's trick. They were the right hand. You're looking at the right hand, pay attention to what's in the left hand. And you can't pay attention to the left hand because the left hand is cloaked in front of you, and they were the real threat. The magician's trick. They were lures. They were used as lures. Patty knew that these people were behind them, and she wanted, or her goal, her mission was to get those 2 men to follow them into a kill box, because there was Zetas and there was Zeta human hybrids waiting right around the corner to kill them and have their bodies disappear and have them never be seen again. That's what the goal was. Patty knew what she was doing. She was doing it under duress, but she knew what she was doing. And that, thankfully, they didn't chase. In 2022, I was told, yes, they're here. They're attracted to you. They're back there. 5 years previously, I didn't have a sign that they were even back there, heard a sound. That night, I was woken up out of a dead sleep to, over the sound of my window unit air conditioner, one of the little small ones, I heard a hooting sound. Sounded like an owl. Now I'm thinking to myself, that's a damn loud owl for me to be woken up out of a dead sleep, which that in itself was extremely weird, because there was no reason for me to get up. I got up. I went into, my bedroom window already had this unit in it, so I couldn't open it. So I went through my bathroom, and I was just at the window listening. And it was a little bit closed. And I'm listening, and I'm hearing this owl. And it sounded like an owl, but it sounded like an 800,000-pound owl. And then I heard a response, and another one sounded, but it sounded farther back. And then another one sounded, and that was even farther back. And probably within 5 minutes, it changed from an owl, typical owl sounds, or what sounded like a giant human mimicking an owl, to what sounded more like a human starting like an owl and then kind of yelling. So sort of like this. Ooh, 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 like that. And it didn't shake me, and it wasn't loud enough to do that, but I definitely knew that sound. And to hear the power and the lungs of that, I knew that it was them, and then everything came together, and I remembered the conversation that we had earlier, that me and this individual who provided me this information told me. They are here. They're attracted to you. They've been listening to your music, but they don't like it when you play it. I'm a drummer and a pianist, and I play guitar, but they don't like it when I do it. They just like it when I play music on my stereo. How would they know that? This individual who told me is up in Alaska. Even if he knew, and I didn't tell him, the Almas that are here, or the Sasquatch, they relayed it to the Almas that were up there. And then those told him. That is remarkable, and it's amazing, beyond words. That was a huge piece of evidence for me that he was being truthful, and he was telling me the truth. Another one was, he said this in an email. He said, they really enjoyed they enjoyed watching the movie Avatar with you the other weekend. And sure enough, I watched Avatar. I watched it with my wife and my 2 kids. The weekend prior. There's no scientific or possible way that he or anyone would know that unless they literally came up to my windows and saw that. These are some of the capabilities that they do, and this is why a lot of encounters on lower houses, not on second floors, typically not on second floors. They've had Sasquatch heads peeking into windows. They're curious. They're human. And as of April 14th, 2016, they were freed. Freed from bondage, freed from enslavement, freed from a lifetime of servitude, fear of death, and for their family's well-being. They possess more family values, respect for their family, respect for their family members, respect for their elders, and respect for Mother Nature and their environment than our human species could ever dream of. Are they the guardians of national parks and national forests? No, but they know how to respect what is given to them. They're masters of their environment. And if they want to be seen, they will be seen. If they don't want to be seen, they will not be seen. Sometimes the juveniles and the adolescents, they don't have their parents' skill and intuition and experience. So sometimes they could be drinking by a stream that's loud, and someone could come up to them and they didn't hear it. They look up, they see that they're caught, and then they take off like a bat out of hell, faster than anything you've ever seen move. 800 pounds of pure muscle, a little bit of hair and skin, moving faster than a cheetah times 10. Feats of strength and speed that cannot be matched, other than their enslavers and the human hybrids based off of the Nazi super soldiers. The reason why the Nazi super soldiers were stopped is because they were so dangerous, mentally screwed up, psychologically damaged, and unpredictable, that they had to stop the program because they would kill everything that they would see, enemies and their creators and the scientists. So they scrubbed the program. That doesn't mean that DNA research and genealogy stopped, because it didn't. Dogmen, werewolves, goatmen, hyena bear hybrids, wolf bear hybrids, reptilian hybrids. The Zetas and their genealogists have had 12,972 years to perfect their craft in making the most scary, dangerous apex predators under full control by them this planet's ever seen. They were set up as security of these massive bases and tunnels in national parks and national forests. If a random hiker or camper or bike rider would end up getting into the wrong area, it would typically be a Zeta human hybrid coming up from behind them, cloaking them, and having them disappear within seconds, never to be seen again. They were the primary source of evil and the predators. They were primarily responsible for the missing 411 disappearances.
All right, Jay, I appreciate you for sharing all that. So you believe these cryptid creatures come from like the Sumerians and the Archons? Is that what you called it?
The majority were, but the ones from my personal research, the dogmen that were created by the Archons or the Zetas, they were built differently. They had ears on the sides of their heads. They didn't have a tail. They had amber-colored eyes and were extremely strong and fast. Also had the ability to cloak and travel into a lower frequency. So, under those characteristics, this falls under what we would know today as a werewolf. These aren't the giant Van Helsing-looking massive dogmen, werewolf-looking things with pointed ears on the top of their head, the barrel-chested bodybuilder build, and a long tail. I have a strong suspicion those are dogmen, and those were created using the same type of genetic techniques and genetic modifications that the Zetas had, but those were created by the military-industrial complex. Humans playing around trying to be God.
Yeah. And the encounter that you had, what do you think the ball of light is? Why do you think they followed you?
From what I was told, certain humans or individuals on this planet possess higher frequencies which can be seen visibly by them, the Sasquatch, which attracted them to me. And they decided to follow me from Glen Ellis Campground all the way back to southeastern Connecticut and sat and stayed in the woods until the day I was awoken. I don't know what you would call it, spiritually, mentally. After that conversation took place with this individual, who provides me this information, he himself is a higher frequency individual, billion times higher up than mine. And he currently lives with these Sasquatch and the small grays in a secured, protected location somewhere in Alaska. And he's the one that said they aren't there for the national park. They're there because of you. And that was very shocking to hear. It was humbling to hear. But it also made sense because that's when, like later on in the conversation, he said, oh, well, they like the music, but they don't want to hear you. They want to hear the music because they dance and they sing. And they're humans, so they like that. They like those things, and the kids like that. So between that and hearing, oh, well, they liked the movie Avatar and they enjoyed that, that was very, very telling to me that he was being serious.
Yeah, and how exactly did it communicate to you?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. No, they never connected they never communicated to me until that night, which was like June 22nd of 2022, and they weren't really contacting me or communicating to me. They wanted me to hear them for how loud they were, and the only time that I really auditorily heard or verified that they were back there was when I heard that giant owl sound, and then the call and response, and then that loud hoo-ah sound, and my neighbors, I didn't say this yet, my neighbors on my left side, they didn't live there yet. So the people that lived at that house, they moved out, and that house was vacant. I never saw that their motion sensor lights go on and off before. That night, there was nothing. It was around 1:45, 1:50 in the morning. There was nothing in their backyard, and I'm hearing this hooting and sound. They started doing samurai chatter and started to do a little more of the Ron Moorhead sound, and then their motion light started turning on and off, and I'm looking right at it, and it's only like 50 feet away. And there was nothing there. There was no birds. There was no insects. There was nothing. There was no squirrels, no chipmunks. It was them, and it could have been adolescents or something playing around. It was them going in and out of that light, turning it up, making it turn on and turn off. That was kind of the end of that. And then the next night, they made a little bit of sound, but not as much. And then they were dormant for about 2 years. And then when I was playing soccer and just kicking the ball around with my dog, my kids in my backyard, one day I felt them, and my dog stopped what she was doing, stared into the woods, started barking uncontrollably. And I sent a message to this individual up in Alaska, and he's a friend of, he's an acquaintance. He was a mentor of me. He's from a high frequency, but he also had military background. And he said, yeah. I said, are they back there again? He said, yeah, they're probably back there. Maybe he's just passing through. Comes to find out, when about a month ago, I'd say, or month or two, somewhere around there, I was in the backyard with my son, and we were having just a little conversation by a fire pit. And then suddenly, out of freaking nowhere, I heard the loudest peacock sound I've ever heard in my life, and it scared the crap out of me. It made me drop my phone. And it in itself was alarming and very surprising. But If it was a peacock, then it should have been responded by another peacock. It wasn't. It was responded by an owl. So it was them again. And I responded to this individual that didn't respond back to me, but someone that's a mutual acquaintance of ours, I inquired with this person, and this person says, "Oh, let me preface with she is a remote viewer, so she has the ability to look into with her spiritual ability, look into my situation and find out if they're there or not." So she said, "Yep, they're back there. They've always been back there. They feel safe there for some reason." And yeah, that's why they're there. So then that confirmed that they were there still. That also gave me validation or confirmation that they've always been back there. So a couple of days later, I put a pristine, perfect apple, two of them, up in a tree really high up, about 10.5 feet, 11 feet up. And I waited 3 or 4 days. I nudged it into this tree so nothing would be getting it down. A bear's not going to get up there. Nothing. It was too skinny of a branch for a black bear to get up there. And there was no sign of consumption. I checked 3 days later. Both apples were gone. No sign of consumption. There was no pieces of it anywhere. And I did that 3 separate times, and each time the apples have disappeared. Though for the last time, it took about 3 weeks for the apples to disappear. So that's my confirmation that they're back there. I haven't heard them since that peacock sound, which is interesting that they chose that. But I have heard that before. I have heard them do that type of noise before on various recordings. So it isn't out of the question.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And Jay, I really appreciate you for sharing your information with me today and taking the time to do that. It really means a lot. And if you ever end up encountering one of these creatures and have a nice sighting, feel free to reach out to me. I'd like to hear about it, and just keep me updated.
Definitely. I'll add with one last thing. There's a piece of land that's kind of near here, and I'm looking at it right now. I'm trying to find it right now. And someone on a Facebook forum for Sasquatch, for a local chapter, posted a video of a Sasquatch yelling after hitting hitting a tree limb on a tree trunk 3 times, and the thing sounded like a dinosaur. And that occurred. I'm trying to find it right here. That occurred at Nahantic State Forest, which is only 23 minutes from me. And that is just a state forest. That's not like a big, large piece of land. I mean, it's decent size. It's probably, I don't know, 200 acres, if that, maybe a little bit more. But when I went up there to check that out, they never made any sound for me. I didn't feel them or anything like that. And I'll conclude with this. And you may believe it, you may not. Your viewers or listeners may believe it or not, and that's up to you. The intense feeling of dread and immediate death was not from seeing a Sasquatch or a Dogman or a crawler. They were the lure. They were the magician's trick. The source of that immediate dread is because a Zeta god or a Zeta human hybrid had come up from behind that person, connected at their sacral chakra, and entered their subconscious and was able to go through their memories and the physical controls of that person. And the feeling of having your body and your mind violated is what causes a sense of primal fear, because you don't know where it's coming from. This was stopped in 2022 with the permanent removal of these malevolent entities. So when someone says, oh, and I have to add this as well. Whenever somebody says, oh, I saw Sasquatch, and then I got a message in my mind saying, please leave or I'm going to kill you. That's not telepathy. Humans do not possess the ability to telepathically communicate. They do because it was provided to them through their DNA by the Zetas 6,500 years ago. Humans do not possess that ability. Now, as I've said on different podcasts, they possess a different nonverbal version of communication that isn't mind speak, but a method of being able to project their emotional state of mind to that person without entering their mind. So they project fear or they project rage, and that person's subconscious or mind automatically computes what their mind is thinking is being said by whatever they're looking at. So if a dogman is staring at them and giving them a stare down, and they project this thing of fear me, that person automatically creates this message in their head. Oh, he looks angry. He must be saying, I better get out or he's going to rip me into shreds. That's not what's actually being said. It's an emotional projection. And it's a different version of nonverbal communication that the Almas or the Sasquatch can do, the Zetas, when they were considered crawlers, could do, or tall whites. They've been also known through history as tall whites. Phil Schneider, he and Mark Barton from Trail to Bigfoot, two of the best sources of information to validate what I'm talking about. Phil Schneider lost his life because he was killed because of what he divulged about Dulce and the tall whites and their control of humans. Mark Barton from Trail to Bigfoot, he literally was seconds from being murdered in a Florida national forest by a Zeta or a Zeta god in 2022, or it might have been earlier than that. I highly suggest you listen to that interview. He literally says everything that I'm telling you about Sasquatch being a lure and a magician's trick. Here's the hairy beast. You don't see what's really going to kill you. And it's a fantastic interview, and he is so lucky that he was able to escape from that because Angelic saw what was happening and picked him up with his bad knees, and he couldn't run. He said, I've never been able to run like that since I was 18 because Angelic's picked him up and literally traveled him into a log cabin and then put angelic protection on the door so those Zetas couldn't open it. And everyone has ways of computing what happened. So he thinks this was an act of God or Jesus.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Yeah, that's very interesting. All right, Jay, we're running out of time, but I really do appreciate everything you shared with me today, and it really makes me wonder about the origins of Sasquatch and all the other unknown things that are going on. But yeah, you have yourself an excellent day, and if you encounter anything else, feel free to reach out to me.
Sounds good. Glad to help.
Yep. Thank you so much, and you take care.
You as well.
All right. See ya.
All right, Jay, thank you very much for sharing your experiences with me. And a lot of people do talk about hearing these owl sounds that transition into strange vocalizations that people can only attribute to Sasquatch. And the fact that you saw the orbs around the activity, that's another indicator that it was possibly cryptid creatures in the area. And yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for gifting these things apples. I thought it was really interesting that you got up into the tree and placed apples up there. I remember watching the Discovering Bigfoot documentary by Todd Standing and Les Stroud, and they would put apples up in the trees really high up there actually, and when they'd come back they'd be gone, missing, misplaced. And yeah, that's strange. You never know, it could be critters getting up there and grabbing these apples, but at the same time there's all these intricate structures in the area and they were finding tracks. So I mean, it very well could be these things. I mean, for as big as they are, how tall they are, they could just reach up there and grab the apple. They don't even have to climb up into the tree. So there is that. And I just thought it was a really interesting approach as far as trying to get more activity. And I need to start gifting apples or feeding them apples. I don't like calling it gifting, honestly, because it just sounds like you're gifting like these ancient gods. And I don't like looking at the Sasquatch as gods, because to me they're not. They're just like an unknown creature, an unknown hominid species, and they do possess supernatural abilities, but I feel like people do as well. But yeah, Jay, I appreciate you for sharing these theories. And you know, I think a lot of people speculate the origins of Sasquatch and attribute them to like the Sumerians, the Anunnaki, as you said, the Archons and the Zetas. I don't really know much about them, but I do feel like there's a connection as far as like ancient history goes, because they had this technology that science still can't explain. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and share your encounters with me through email. Until the next one, you guys be safe out in the forest.